All right, hearing that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Vice Chair Jaimes and seconded by Director Weston. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a choral vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Sorry, Ben. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, we will move into recognition and good news with Lisa Burton.
Okay, good evening, Chair Irvin and directors. This evening, we are here to celebrate 4 Tigard High School students who participated in the National Ethics Bowl competition. And so their names are Theo Jones, Izzy Pope, Ellery Harrington, and Quinlan Keller. And to this evening with us are Theo and Ellery. So I'll let them share about the competition, but I did want to say or share with you that they won the state competition for Oregon and were the only team from Oregon to participate in this national competition. And also with us is language arts teacher Michael Rogers. And so I'll let you explain.
They were actually the only team from the West Coast.
Oh,
as well. So yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, Michael Rogers, theory of knowledge teacher and language arts teacher, and super proud of these guys. And I'll let them, I guess, introduce themselves and talk about, I don't know, what you guys want to hear. I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Theo Jones. This was kind of my first experience with the Ethics Bowl. There was a team that Rogers or a couple teams that Rogers put together to do it last year, but I wasn't a part of that, and it was a really new and exciting experience for us. After they competed last year, Ellery and some other people turned it into a club at Tigard, and we've kind of, I don't know, we really wanted to win state. That was kind of, Quinlan made that the top priority from the beginning, that we were going to win state, and that, I mean, everything just kind of worked out for us. And
yeah, it was a lot of hard work. It sounds really nerdy, but when you're approaching 15 of the most pressing ethical issues in society, and you're a group of 4 high school students, and you're like, how do we solve what considerations we owe artificial intelligence? And you're like, I don't even know where to start with that. So it was a lot of hard work, but we had a lot of engaging discussions that I really appreciated to share with my teammates and my friends. And Rogers was super grateful for setting us up with the opportunity. And yeah, like Theo mentioned, it carried through and we won state. It's just the first time it's happened at Tigard. And then we went to nationals, and that was super exciting. And we placed 6th, which I would say we did pretty good, out of 300 plus schools in the competition. And I know the district supported us through some funding with that, and we just wanted to say thank you for that too. It was a really amazing experience.
So walk us through what an ethics bowl looks like. And I know you just gave an example of kind of one of the topics, but kind of how does it work? I think maybe some of us might think is it kind of like debate, and so that's sort of how it's set up. But really, just I think a lot of us here and listening out there aren't really familiar with that. So maybe just kind of walk us through the process, the topics, how you prepare.
So the Ethics Bowl is pretty similar to debate, but rather than trying to, I guess, prove the opposition wrong, you're trying to support the other team, build their arguments stronger. So the format of the discussion, essentially, there's 2 cases. They flip a coin for Team A, Team B. If you're Team A, you present on your case, and then the other team gets 3 minutes to give you feedback. And then you utilize that feedback to further improve your argument and address their questions. And then you get to answer questions from the judges preceding that. And then you switch roles, and then the other team does the same thing.
Yeah, and for the judges' questions, for the other sections that aren't the judges' questions, you get some prep time with your team to kind of discuss your stance. And then for the judges' questions, it's just 10 minutes of you have no prep and you're kind of on the spot. So that's really kind of where you see the on your feet critical thinking about those questions.
Which they won, by the way, best in the country.
Yeah, we did.
That-
We
that
won
was
the
the
judges'
part, yeah.
choice for the best judges' questions answers, which was really exciting. And so, yeah, I think it's similar to debate, but I think the element of trying to build the argument is really crucial and what makes it so special.
And I think the judges' questions are very difficult. The example that, I mean, the most difficult one I think that we got asked was during the state final. The city commissioner told us that Portland has like a sister city in Russia, and the question was whether it was ethical for them to sever ties with that sister city because of the war conflict in Russia and Ukraine. And it's just things like that that are really hard to answer without discussion with your teammates. And we kind of just all have to be on the same page, and someone has to speak for all of us. And that's
There's a lot of team trust,
Yeah.
and I think that's what I think makes this team really special too, is because we're all kind of friends, and we made a really strong bond through state and internationals. So, yeah.
And I would add to the judges' questions are from like PhDs in philosophy, and so they're not even undergraduates yet. And so what they did, I think, is especially remarkable. The ability and confidence they all exuded in terms of the responses and sophistication. I certainly never had that when I was in high school. So yeah, amazing work.
That's awesome. I will open it to my colleagues for other questions or comments. Director Bowman?
I'm going to try to see if we can. I just wanted to say congratulations to you two in particular, but to the whole team. You make the district look very good when you win competitions like that. So thank you. And my question is, can you give us the 2-minute version of what the ethical implications of artificial intelligence are?
Do you remember our stance?
I don't even know what we said. I think we said we owe them moral consideration to if we know that they experience emotion and pain, we owe them consideration, but we don't owe them legal rights with the status of personhood. And that ties into another case we had that was really about animal rights and granting animals the status of personhood. So you see a lot of ties between the cases that kind of help you build your argument. But yeah, I think the AI one was one of the toughest ones for me because there's so many unknowns and I'm not a computer-y person, so I didn't really know what I was saying. Sometimes you just gotta pretend you know what you're talking about and hope that you're not saying something absolutely insane.
That was in the.
Do you agree, Theo?
I do agree. Although sometimes when we decided that we were gonna kind of make it up on the fly and not really know what we were talking about, we kind of disputed Aristotle professor's entire livelihood, and that wasn't the best decision of us. But I mean,
We can't all win every time.
yeah.
It's okay.
So I have a question for you. So I'm imagining being a high school student wandering around the halls. What made you think, gosh, ethics bowl, that sounds like fun. I want to do it.
I think it's really all about Mr. Rogers. I think the theory of knowledge course, it's part of the IB curriculum. There's nothing else like it. I think it's my favorite class I've ever taken in high school, and I think Mr. Rogers, the way he teaches it, I think even if I took it from a different teacher, it wouldn't be as special. He really focuses on class discussion, where you kind of get to practice those kind of stances and stuff. So I think when he brought up the ethics bowl, I was like, I like engaging in this class, and I like the topics of this class and how important they are socially. And so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. And then I just really fell in love with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Ellery said. I went into TOK not really having very much interest in philosophy, but Rogers was my English 9 teacher. I kind of just wanted to have him as a teacher again. And Ethics Bowl was really interesting. We kind of did a mock one in class, and that's what kind of sparked everyone's interest in the topic for at least the 4 of us. And there were some others that graduated last year that were also interested. But yeah, I mean, that's what really got us to pursue it. And we hope it's something that continues at Tigard after we graduate.
High praise indeed, and appropriate for Teacher Appreciation Month. Thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to say congratulations. I also didn't do anything like that in high school, so congratulations, and you'll probably make it to first place next year.
Thank you so much for your wonderful leadership and work. I just want to say that it sounds like if we were to send only one team from the West Coast, you're the right team to go. So thank you so much for going out there and representing your team and your community. And thank you for all the hard work, and also Mr. Rogers, your work with these young people and helping cultivate this interest. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I'll just end quickly. I think then we have a little gift and a picture probably. But what I really love, particularly when you compared it to debate, is it's really building, and I think in the TOK class it does this too, but this this understanding of healthy discourse and being able to talk through difficult subjects and maybe have different ideas about it and different points of view, but still being able to build up each other's arguments, or kind of take that sort of first thought, second thought protocol, which a lot of us here are really familiar with, and using that in a way that's really incredibly educational and constructive, and something that I think you will have leaps and bounds more experience with getting into college and adulthood and all of those other things that you choose to do, kind of having that understanding of, oh, I can have this conversation and we can have different ways of thinking about it and still come together around how we feel about it in a really thoughtful way and respectful way. So that's really awesome. Thank you.
And you have made your decisions about college, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That is
so I
correct.
think it's OSU. Am I getting it backwards?
That's backwards.
OSU and
I'm going to University of Washington. Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, this is the part where we get to embarrass all of you if we haven't already done that. So please come on up, and we would like a picture with you and with Mr. Rogers. Thank you again for all the work that you're doing here. It is really life-changing.
Thank you.
Do you have any other members or family that's with them?
No, unfortunately, softball and track. Yeah.
All right, and with that, we will move to student rep reports. Whoever wants to go first.
I will. We had prom 2 weekends ago in Portland, and that was super successful. And it was super fun to see everyone all dressed up. This week is ASB president elections, so students, make sure you vote. Also this week, there is IB testing going on, and it is the end of spring sports. I just got back from districts in tennis, and I want to say Tualatin, Tigard, Lake Oswego, Lake Ridge, and Westland kind of all played together. Tigard isn't doing so great, but that's okay. The girls are playing amazing, and they are expected to go to state. And they are actually still playing right now. It's a long night. And Tigard High last week had their multicultural night, and unfortunately I could not attend because I was in the gym practicing for districts, but I could smell the food coming in as I was hitting, and I became very jealous.
A lot similar to Tiger, we have a lot of IB testing going on, so a lot of students are out of the classroom with in our wrestling room just for hours at a time doing written IB tests. We also have our ASP elections coming up, not this week, but next week. We have the system in Tigard, so it's our general elections for our entire student body, which will be pretty fun this year. Well, not for me, but for those who are running. Um, US is also Teacher Appreciation Week. Today we started off by voting for our teacher superlatives, which are still ongoing voting, and then tomorrow we're going to have a stand with notes we put out for teachers to give them their thanks, and we'll review what we're going on later in the week, which when that time comes. We also had prom last weekend on the 5th at the Crystal Ballroom. The venue was pretty amazing for most of us, and students had lots of fun, and there were a lot more improvements from the prom we had last year, which was the first real dance we had back from COVID in the first place. So it was hard for all of us last year. And then senior decision day was on May 1, which a lot of students displayed their decisions on the College and Career Center, so you got to see where all your friends were going or whatnot. There are a lot of Oregon State and Oregon State and Oregon's and PCCs, but I think all of us were glad that the stress of deciding and applying is finally passed. And in the world of sports, we have our track and field varsity districts next week at Oregon State High School on Thursday and Friday. And then we have our tennis teams also at districts today. And then we have our Powder Puff and Powder Tough games on the horizon, which is lots of fun for upcoming students.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions? Looks like Director
Are
Zerschmied
you
might have
going
one.
to share what college you might be going to next year?
I'll be attending the University of Notre Dame next fall. Yeah.
Big congratulations. All right. And with that, we move to Superintendent and Board Communication, Dr. Vicki Smith.
Thank you so much. You know, it's hard to believe that we are exactly 4 weeks away from graduation ceremonies on June 8th, 9th, and 10th. And yet there were 2 wonderful reminders this past Friday and Sunday that reminds us that it is that time of year. So the first was the Shining Stars Scholarship Awards and Business Awards from the Tigard Chamber of Commerce. And I had the pleasure of awarding scholarships to our own Aoshiki Nag, to Amanda Franzak from Tualatin High School, and to Bennett Crawford, also of Tigard. And then there were 3 additional Tigard students who were awarded scholarships: Ellery Harrington, part of the Ethics Bowl, Manuel Ibarra Calderon, and Skylar Benagni. These scholarships are additional contributions that Tigard Chamber of Commerce members give throughout the year. To make sure that they are able to give even more scholarships to our students. And we're very, very grateful for that, and certainly appreciated the opportunity to share the evening with Chair Irvin, Vice Chair Jaimes, and Director Bowman, as well as Director Fields and Principal Bailey. And I know you'll have more to say about that. And it has been rumored that Lunch with Dr. Sue may have raised more during the silent auction that evening than Lunch with Mayor Lou. Just saying. Sunday, May 7th, Rotary Club of Tigard Awards, which was last evening, they have been supporting Tigard High School with scholarships and acknowledgments for over 59 years. That's quite a legacy. 35 students received Rotary certificates for exceptional academic performance in core and elective course areas. Tigard's 30 valedictorians this year and 6 IB diploma candidates were also honored. Over $20,000 in scholarships were awarded to 11 students, and it was a pleasure to share the evening with Director Bowman, who I'm sure will have more to share this evening about last night. And then I'd like to just close quickly relative to school safety, because that's ever present on all of our minds. With the continued news of mass shootings across the country, it's important for us to remind our community of the systems and partnerships that we do have in place, dedicated to the safety of our buildings, our staff, and students. We have a long-standing, strong relationship with our local law enforcement partners. I cannot speak more highly of the leadership and officers that work in partnership with us daily from the cities of Tualatin, Tigard, King City, and Durham. Our school resource officers are in our buildings every day and working closely with our staff to build respectful and trusting relationships with our students and family. Our community has prioritized safety investments in our buildings, and thanks to the bond measure that was passed in 2016, every school building has what we call safety vestibules, which is a series of point of entries that are locked during the school day and require visitors to be buzzed in after they've been identified. Our work is to keep our buildings safe, and unfortunately, we have to study and learn whenever there is a new incident that provides information in which we should consider how we could do better. We cannot do this work alone and count on our community to help us identify risks and continually improve. If there is anyone in our community that has questions regarding our safety practices and systems, please reach out to the district office and you will be directed to an administrator who can best answer your questions. Please be watching also for upcoming dates to a series of community safety forums we will be hosting with our law enforcement partners. These forums will provide an opportunity for community members to come and learn from and ask questions of those that are working alongside us to keep our schools safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And board communications. Whoever would like to go first. Director Zershmi?
I'm happy to go first. It's been a busy couple of weeks. The Unity basketball game at Tualatin High School was an amazing game. I don't think I've ever seen a basketball game that was more fun. The kids are super supportive of each other. The teachers there who have put it together are truly amazing. I've also been going to baseball games and some softball games and managing to dodge the rain showers, so that's been really nice. And then I had the opportunity to go to Metzger Elementary School 2 weeks ago, not quite 2 weeks ago, to observe co-teaching of a TWE class at the 5th grade level. And it was an amazing thing to see. This was social sciences that they were teaching in this particular time that I was there. Primarily in English, so I could actually understand what was going on, which was kind of nice. But it was amazing. It's always amazing in a TWE classroom the way it slips between English and Spanish. The kids by that point, they've been in the TWE program for 6 years. They're really facile with the language, and it's wonderful. The lesson was on Molly Pitcher from the American Revolutionary War, and it was a really nice example of using historical documents to tell a story. To get behind the myth of the person and the persona and what really happened. So it was a really nice experience, and I encourage any of my fellow board members, if you have the opportunity to see co-teaching in action. I will also say one of the things that was truly amazing in this classroom was that there was one particular student who had just immigrated to the United States 3 days before, and here he was in his second day in school or third day in school. Fully engaged in the classroom and accessing the curriculum, and it was really amazing to see. So that was my heartening moment for the week.
That's wonderful. Director Weston?
Thank you. I just want to start off by acknowledging the difficult time we're going through as we grapple with the impact of a budget out of Salem that fails to fully fund our educational system. I know that that these impacts are causing real issues for students and staff, and I want to acknowledge that we're going through a difficult time, and as a board, we're doing the best we can, but I know there's real impacts happening in the classrooms and as young people watch as this unfolds. So I just wanted to start off by acknowledging that. And then on a little bit of a lighter note, I want to highlight that outdoor school just happened for our 6th graders. I'm really happy that was able to happen. My son came back a little bit sunburned and a little bit tired, but had a great time. Also, I've been enjoying softball season, and I also wanted to mention a pretty impressive program happening with scooter safety happening in the elementary school, and how much fun that's been, and how kids have been coming home with helmets. And that's just a great program, helps keep our kids safe as they're also active, and really appreciate the work that went into that.
I don't have much to report, but I do want to say thank you to all the teachers that are, educating our students. And I know that a week of recognition is not enough because you work tirelessly from actually all year long, because even in the summer you're still working tirelessly. So I really appreciate everything that you do for the students. Thank you.
Director Bowman? Any updates?
Sorry, there's a lot even on the
You're
video.
good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, just a couple quick notes. I did want to start by saying Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the educators in our school district, and a huge thank you for all you do. I sent a quote to the newsletter. I think most of us did, so hopefully that went through. But really appreciate the work being done in our schools. We'll do a SIP update soon, but it's clear that teachers are going above and beyond, especially this year with all the challenges that students are facing to help students get across the finish line in high school um, and meet their benchmarks in the earlier grades. So thank you to teachers. I also wanted to shout out at the Tiger Shining Stars celebration. Hopefully she's not in the audience. She probably is actually. Got to embarrass Maureen Wolf, our former 12-year school board member, who was given the From the Heart Volunteer of the Year award, which sort of like after the introduction of her was right, it was sort of sounded like a lifetime achievement award for all that she's done for TTSD, dating way back to some of the earlier bond measures that really laid the foundation for the strong position we're in now in this district. So wanted to give her a huge shout out, as well as the students who were recognized with scholarships. And then also wanted to give a big thanks to the Tigard Rotary for their incredible generosity in supporting some of our incredible students. I think, Dr. Sue, you might remember the total number, but I think it was like over 50 students who were recognized for their academic excellence and their scholastic achievements at the Tigard Rotary celebration dinner. So a huge thank you to the Rotary leaders who are raising money and volunteering their time to honor those students and to do great work in the community. And a shout out to all the students who were mentioned. I had one other, the election is on Tuesday. So regardless of who you vote for, turn in your ballots. All local elections are important, and they tend to have fewer voters than the November election. So please spread the word in the community to make sure to turn in your ballot by a week from this Tuesday. That's it. Thank you.
And Chair, I would be remiss. I thought you were going to do it, Director, but you didn't. So I'm going to do it. You were the keynotes last night and were extremely well received. So kudos to Director Bowman.
Thank you very much.
And going last is nice because everyone did something that I was going to say. So I will just quickly reiterate. The Tigard Shining Stars was really incredible. All of the students and community members that were acknowledged. It was really wonderful to see just everything that we are all doing as a community was really wonderful. I wasn't able to go to the Rotary event last night, but I did sign all of those certificates. And I will tell you what, there are a lot of really incredible people at Tigard High School, because that sack was about this thick and had a hand cramp after. So that was telling of what we are doing in our schools, what our teachers are doing, which leads me to the next thing, which other people mentioned, which is Teacher Appreciation Week, and also acknowledging that it especially, a lot of us are educators or in the world of education. It feels weird having Teacher Appreciation Week when also knowing that there's a lot of discomfort and hard stuff happening. And so, similar to Director Weston, I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that we know that is happening. We know that every program, every teacher is beloved by someone, and usually lots and lots of people. And there were a lot of conversations all the way back through negotiations of worrying what could happen, and sort of seeing some of this happen at the state level is really difficult, and kind of hoping that the community knows that also the advocacy and the lobbying for more school funding and educational funding that needs to happen at the state level is really, really critical, because that's really where we are able to do our work, is when we are given enough adequate funding from the state. And there's a lot of movement, and I think people really better understanding what we need to not only adequately serve our students, but kind of go above and beyond. And I know that our district continues to go above and beyond, even when that funding is decreasing year over year. I also wanted to mention ballots and election day, so thank you, Director Bowman. And then again, I did have some, I know there are a couple of lockout or lockdown drills that are happening in some of the elementary schools this week. And so Dr. Sue also beat me to that. But I did want to just kind of mention that we do have, opportunities at safety forums to kind of understand more about our safety process. that we continue to prioritize safety investments with our bond dollars, and that certainly if there are any concerns or questions, to absolutely contact that district office, and we will get you in touch with the people that have the answers that you need. So I think that is all. Oh, and we had Rock and Roll to School Day, so that was fun. I got to walk with a lot of Durham students to school, so that was a really fun thing that we do several times a year as well. So with that, we will go into, I'm going to confirm that we do not have any agenda item public comment. All right. Thank you, Patty. And so with that, we will go into our first reports and discussion item. And this is really all of us being able to share out, and I'm going to give us about 2 minutes apiece to talk about the SIP presentations that we heard earlier during our work session, and just kind of sharing out what we learned, and kind of like what was mentioned earlier, really the incredible work that our teachers and our administrators are doing to support our kids. And yeah, so who would like to go first with that? I'm gonna look to Director Zerschmied again, because you're just right there.
Because you read left to right. No, wait, you're right. Okay. Yeah.
And actually, and also because you guys were there as well, feel free to jump in at any point and share any of your takeaways as well.
All right. So I met with folks from Hazelbrook Middle School. That would be the assistant principals, Ben Burkhart and Jamie Volker, along with Michelle Edwards, who's a TOSA. Is that curriculum TOSA? Is that right? No, instructional coach. I knew I was going to get her title wrong. And one of the things that they spoke about that I really appreciated was that they're focusing on making sure that kids are thriving. Because if kids are thriving, that means that all of the other systems are probably in place. If a kid's not thriving, that means that there's a problem. And so then it's time to look for those other things. And the solution that Jamie Volker has come up with, brought into play this year, is a support center in the school, a room in the school where a student can go if they're feeling dysregulated, if they need to check in, calm themselves down. There's a staff member there who can help them get through whatever it is. And also it's a place where if a student is maybe dysregulated in a classroom, that they can then leave the classroom, and rather than going to the principal's office because they're in trouble, they can go to a room where somebody can help them figure out, is it an impulse control problem? Is it a mental health crisis problem? What exactly is going on? And sort of help them get their stuff back together so that then they can get back to the classroom and back to being educated as quickly as possible. And I thought that was just a really innovative way to take on that problem, because our middle schoolers really are suffering in that when the pandemic hit, they were little kids in elementary school. And then at the end of the pandemic, they're plopped in, and now they're middle schoolers. And it's a whole different world. And for many of them, they're still kids. And so bridging that gap to get them to be successful middle schoolers is a lot of work, and it's going to take that extra adult in the building to help them get there. So I found it a fascinating conversation with the folks from Hazelbrook.
That's awesome.
My turn.
Vice Chair?
Okay, thank you. So I met with the folks at Durham Elementary and Tualatin Elementary, and we had some great conversations about their pedagogy with, or their instruction with in terms of lowering the achievement gap, as well as closing that goal of closing the achievement gap between 5 and 8% for our underserved students. And so the Durham folks were talking about having empathy interviews with their students. One of the things that they are seeing currently is a change in demographics due to more students experiencing homelessness in their attendance area. And so we tried to really do a deep dive of their instructional practices and what they're doing for the response to intervention in terms of, and not to get too technical on you all, but at the tier one, so the 80% of the students that we're talking. I mean, we try and do it for 100%, right? But we know that 80% of the students are going to be um, reached at that level. And so, how do we then take that to the next tier and to the tier three of the instructional practices um, where those students are students who are often disenfranchised and are often the most uh, behind in their learning. And so with that, the empathy interviews and going through a model of improvement science and coming at it from a, well, this, you can't see the graphic, but it's a flower, you know, and just seeing how everything is connected in terms of the assessment literacy and going through, you know, dynamic learning communities, critical consciousness, uh, those practices that are going to get you the congruent instructional practices like PACS implementation and reinforcement of the widespread use of uh, PBIS, positive behavior, and something intervention. Yes, so just going through that, and then looking at their scores and where they're going and where they've been, as well as their implementation of the ISH plan. And I get more time because I had two schools. Um, and their ISH plan of responding to hate speech and hate speech incidents that have happened at at a big level, but also focusing on the daily microaggressions that are happening and how to combat those. And with Tualatin, they also are focusing on those empathy interviews as well as that improvement science. But one of the things that we were talking about is that they are actually, I guess, losing their students of color because of within their attendance area, the way that home pricing has increased. That um, they went from 40% to 35% Latino students, and so trying to trying to figure out how to better serve the Latino students that they have currently. One of the problems that the principal was talking about was that when when he did those empathy interviews, he talked to the fifth grade students, and they had said that they thought of reading as being able to sound out big words, and so there was no like joy of reading, no reading for fun or reading for educational practices, right? Or reading to learn. It was more about learning to read and learning to decode. And so they're tackling that problem as to making reading more fun, right? And we've got a librarian in the house that I'm sure can help with that. But you know, just making sure that when we are talking about those equitable outcomes for all, we are also focusing on the practices that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. And I say us because, you know, I feel like I'm part of the school. So thank you.
Director Bowman, would you like to go?
Yes. So I was with Principal Michael DeLerba of Tualatin High School, and I won't repeat some of the other things that were shared, but some high point highlights I did want to share. I think it was Director Kinch who kind of summarized it this way. They're using data to craft systems and interventions that respond directly to the needs of students. And then two other kind of thematic highlights that I really liked. And I can't remember Principal Delerba who said this, but gentle pressure applied relentlessly, and trying to send a signal to students that we're never going to give up on you. So if you drilling into the details just a bit, at the beginning of the school year, there were 136 students after they were fully scheduled for the rest of the year who were not on track to graduate. That's a really alarmingly high number, 136 students. Fast forward to today, that number is down about 100 to just 39 students, and it continues to shrink as these interventions are applied to those students, and teachers step in to support them and help them meet their needs. Tualatin High School is in the middle. I think it was referred to as an EASH plan reboot with an emphasis on on communications, basically explaining what EASH is, and why it matters. And for those who don't know, this is the hate speech and bias incidents system that we created to respond to incidents of bias in our schools. Uh, they are seeing an increase in incident referrals, a pretty significant increase, but that might not mean what you might think it means. One of the things that it made me think of was our initial listening sessions on when we were trying to craft the EASH plan. What we consistently heard from students and parents was, well, we don't want to report. We have no interest in reporting because it doesn't seem like anything's getting done. Why would we tell an adult in the system if nothing's going to happen from us reporting it? And so what I'm hopeful for, and I think what the team at Tualatin High School believes, is that part of what's driving that increase is a belief in the system and a belief that reporting incidents actually will yield an outcome, will yield an intervention from the school. So something definitely for us to keep an eye on across the district. I think Director Bernard or Director Kinch mentioned that this is happening across the district. This is not isolated just to Tualatin High School. Staff at the school are asking for additional support in understanding how to intervene in sort of transitory moments. Like if you're going through the hallway and you hear a bias incident, teachers got to get to their classroom to teach the next period, but they just heard a bias incident. How do you intervene in a way that is effective and honors the seriousness of the issue, but upholds your other responsibilities? So they're working on that and working to offer support. Let's see. And then I guess I'll just end by saying one of the things I was happy to see is that they are seeing higher attendance rates relative to other comparable schools their size, which you all probably know attendance is a really challenging issue right now across the state. So seeing us perform better is an encouraging sign. That's it for me.
Owen or Nase, not to put you on the spot, but is there anything that you wanted to share, any takeaways, any thoughts?
We sat in the CFT Deer Creek schools, so not to jump on Director Weston's, but kind of one of the biggest highlights that we were talking about is how important relationships are, relationships with the staff together, but also relationships with students as well. And about the importance of communication about the SIT plan and the each work that they're doing, so that staff can all work together as one united force to kind of reach those common goals.
I saw the same emphasis, especially at CFT. One thing I wrote down was like the focus on cohesiveness and connecting, and how do we all like get back together? Because I know CFT had a principal change earlier in this year, which led to a lot of miscommunication, I guess, between administration and teachers and development of the SIP. But I think that Principal Tim Gross is doing a great job of trying to get the school back together and get the sense of community they had get the sense of community they had back from like the previous years before. Just after COVID, they felt great together, but I guess things changed and they've really been focusing on like I guess staff meetings and figuring out where they are as a community and where they need to be in the future for their students.
That's great. Thank you. And then Director Weston.
Try turning it on. So I was with Dr. McCall, student representatives Albright and Lynn, and Director Rose, and our first one was with Principal Gross at CFT, as mentioned, and we talked a lot about having that strong community, having, especially with transitions, having everyone coming together and kind of align around the goals, and having a can-do attitude, appreciating and supporting staff. And there was also some work around improving communications about how to respond to student behaviors and make sure that student needs were being addressed by everyone. And then I'll touch a little bit on the discussion with about Deer Creek with Principal Waffle, and we talked a lot in that group about the Ignite program, especially the third graders being particularly impacted by COVID, and how that program was the Ignite program was helping accelerate that progress. And we also talked about some of the socio-emotional needs and how starting with some of that foundational work helped lead to more learning over time, and also some work on morning meetings and just building an atmosphere of engagement. And appreciate everyone's great work and continuing to kind of perfect systems and move forward and keep closing those gaps. So thank you for that work.
All right, and I will finish. I was with Principal DeWolf with TTVA, which is our virtual academy, and that is it's a K-12 school. So she kind of broke that down for us into kind of two main areas that they were really focused in this year. And I think one thing, just for context, besides being sort of shifting from a K-12, which it was last year, to a 6 through 12 this year, is really like this sort of understanding that they are still building out a lot of the systems and the procedures and sort of how it all is going to look and feel. They're still a really new school. And so their two main areas of focus were centered around these monthly student success conferences that they have, and then small group instruction based on data. And so they've seen really positive increases in both, and also some really interesting areas where they need to kind of think about how are they going to better serve some certain like pockets of students. With the student success conferences, it's really kind of tied into their TSS systems, where they're really looking at, are these kids doing generally well? And then this is the kind of conference that you're going to have. If there's like a little bit of an issue where they kind of want to nip it in the bud before it gets not great, that's sort of a different tier of conference. And then tier 3 is really where are there multiple Fs in core courses? Is attendance an issue? And then they have some really kind of more prescribed and thoughtful interventions for those folks. And really working also as students come in, pairing those with homeroom teachers or these teachers that would be their student success conference leaders that would really have something in common with them. So they're building those relationships. And so they've really seen some really positive outcomes using that method. In terms of small group instruction based on data, this is something that they are doing week over week. So they will, teachers are doing it in a couple different ways, but they will take a look at, it could be iReady, it could be, something that they're doing on Canvas, and they will truly be building out those groups for the following week in terms of what intervention or reteaching or scaffolding needs to happen for those specific skills. And so they've seen some really great impacts with those small groups and really that immediate use of data. So it is truly Wednesday of this week, we are looking at data. By Monday, there's a new group, and those kids are really focused, and they really feel like, oh, this is an opportunity. It's not necessarily a class time or an extra lesson. This is the time where I get to come and work on this project, work on this paper with my teacher, and it feels it's sort of centered differently. One of the areas that they want to continue looking at is kiddos that are coming in after the start of the year or the semester by about 2 weeks have a considerably lower passing rate than those that were coming in on time. And so how do we better onboard? How do we tighten up that timeline for that onboarding process to make sure that those kids are successful right out of the gate and not having to wait extra weeks and months to try and get them caught up and get them on board and kind of in sync with the rest of the group. So those were the main. Oh, and also the projected graduation. They have about a 3% increase this year from last year for their projected graduation rate, which was really fantastic. So that is my report. Dr. Sue.
I wish to thank the board again for engaging in these roundtables and having real-time, need-to-need conversations with our leaders. I want to say thank you to Director Robson in Teaching and Learning and all the work that has gone in to developing those roundtables for that in-the-moment conversation, and to all of the principals and staff who have brought that data forward and really helped you all to see how our amazing teachers do their work day in and day out. And I think hopefully that you've seen over the last couple of years this shift to not just data informed but human informed instruction. And that's what makes our current situation such a gut wrencher in the sense that we are commanded by state and state law and contract to think only in terms of seniority when you have to reduce force based on a drop in enrollment, such as what we've experienced, 1,100 students, and with it, $11 million in this case that comes with that, that unfortunately is not there to close that gap. That's what makes it so very, very difficult, because you can see every teacher, you can see every student that they've impacted. And this is why we continue to ask our community to help us advocate at the state level so that the decisions that we now have to make, again, guided by seniority and by law, that we can maybe eventually get to a place where it's that and more of a human face and the impacts that it has for students. And so thank you for engaging in that and understanding that. And again, I would, my final comments would be added to yours in terms of the deep appreciation for every single one of our teachers. At one of the budget meetings that Director Moore and Director Rose and I are going, as you well know, to each and every individual school and meeting with them in person, a teacher said, "We're grateful for the time that we've had, and we need to acknowledge that." And I was deeply touched by that comment, because that's really who we are in TTSD. We're grateful for the time that we've had. We hope to be able to call you back, and we are working with diligence to do that, should the state provide us with more funding to allow us to do that. And there will always be a very special place here at TTSD for each and every one who served our kids this year.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. And with that, we will bring up our reports and discussion item B with Jarvis.
Good evening. I'm really excited to be able to share some news today. I want to introduce Hendrik Brokershen. He is the coordinator for Safe Routes to School with the city of Tigard. He's actually doing most of the talking tonight. But I just want to share just a quick introduction regarding Safe Routes to Schools. It started in 2016 in our school district, and not with Hendrik. He had somebody before him that started the program. And in my own experience, it really was focused around elementary and trying to get students to school in a safe manner, whether it's riding a bike or a scooter, and that was sort of it. A little bit of some education in there, excuse me. And since Hendrik has taken over and this has grown, we have done a whole bunch of things. Those same things that I just mentioned, but also where Hendrik has kind of taken off, I think, is helping our school communities be safer around all areas of coming and going to school. So he's helped principals with just how to manage their parking lots and making sure that's safe. He's worked with the city in even helping traffic lights be different timings, crosswalks, I mean, a whole bunch of things. And so the reason we're here, fast forward, is because he's actually part of a grant that the city of Tigard has. That grant is coming to an end, and we're coming into a new agreement with the city of Tigard and TTSD. And so that's what we're going to share a little bit tonight. So I'm going to turn this over to Hendrik, and I think you have the IGA that's the agreement that we're talking about. And then there's a PowerPoint that Henrik's going to go through and just highlight some of those points that are in the IGA. And then we'll answer any questions that people may have.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for allowing me to be here and speak with the TTSD board and with administrators here. I'll share a little bit about the Safe Routes to School program. Like Jarvis mentioned, it started in 2016, and since then, the city and the Safe Routes to School program has delivered education, encouragement, and capital infrastructure improvements around TTSD schools. And we just are wrapping up a 3-year grant cycle, and I'm just submitted our application for our next 3-year grant cycle, which is 2023 to 26. And one exciting part of that is we applied as a core partner, which shows that we've delivered a program consistently. And this is through the Portland Metro RTO Regional Travel Options Grant. And that means that they like us and they want to continue funding us because they see what we've been doing here and are very much for it. So looking forward, the City of Tigard and Safe Routes to School program has proposed this intergovernmental agreement with the Tigard-Tualatin School District. And that's to strengthen our already established relationship through the Safe Routes to School program. The IGA will detail, or it does detail, the roles and responsibilities of each agency and how we'll fulfill the terms of the Safe Routes to School grant and continue supporting program goals. So this slide highlights our 5 primary tasks within the Safe Routes to School program. And since it's housed in the City of Tigard, these all align very closely with our City Council goals, a number of our 2040 transportation system plan goals, and notably our strategic vision, which is an equitable community that is walkable, healthy, and accessible for everyone. In my meetings with Jarvis and other TTSD administrators who have been involved in this process, it's clear that we share very similar goals and visions. The next few slides provide an opportunity for me to share some highlights of what we've been able to do while also highlighting what we want to do with this IGA. So this is a fun representation of our walk and roll participation since the program began. And as you can see, it's been kind of a roller coaster. Some years had a lot higher participation than others, and then we had 2 or 3 years that were directly affected by the pandemic, where we weren't really able to do that much or to deliver many of our programs within schools. Since then, I think this is representative of not just some of the work we've been doing together, but also of community goals and values. I think a lot of families want to be able to walk, bike, and roll to school. And we're at a great intersection where we also have stakeholders and community members and ourselves that want that too. And so we're seeing that here. And one of the things the IGA wants to do with encouragement programs like walk and roll is to work from both sides, the bottom up and top down. So what is outlined in the IGA is to have Tigard-Tualatin School District administration help with messaging. So for our walk and roll to school days, which we just had our May event, and then also to start looking into new programs like walking school buses and bike trains. And it's not really outlined what our expectation is, other than we want to work together to see how we can find a way to do that safely and cover things like liability and all the things that we have to be considerate of. This slide shows some fun pictures from our 2nd grade pedestrian and scooter education. Last year, I was able to deliver this program at 5 schools and reached 436 students. As you can see, it's pretty fun, sometimes chaotic, but it's always a good time. And I hope that the students at least learn a few ways to be safe pedestrians in their neighborhoods and around their schools. And one thing that is in this IGA for these kinds of education programs is if there's only one of me and I can't be at every single school, there's not enough time. We're trying to find ways to say, well, maybe we can do 2nd grade education in PE and have a training program. So it's not just one bottleneck of a person trying to deliver these programs, but let's investigate if we can share that responsibility a little bit. And here we see our 5th grade bike safety. So last year I operated at 2 schools. This year I'm doing a pilot program at Sea of Tigard as a 3rd school. So we just started today, and that was super fun. And so again, if my time is freed up for the 2nd grade education, if some schools can start taking on that curriculum without me, but with my support, that would free up more time for me to deliver 5th grade, because that's a little bit more challenging of an education program, which includes 30 bikes that I would bring to schools. And something to note of both of these programs is all students get free helmets. Previously, they used to cost a low amount, but that is a barrier to involvement. So we're also trying to find ways to be equitable in all of our offerings. So combining those two, we gave out over 600 helmets last year for free, and this year I'm hoping to give out over 1,000. So this slide just kind of highlights what this IGA is about. And I think the most important part here is we all have shared challenges, and when we work together, our solutions are stronger. And so that's sort of what prompted this conversation. Some challenges we see include, which was mentioned, traffic around schools that creates unsafe situations for pedestrians, or long times for parents trying to drop off students. So that's another thing in the IGA where we want to see if we can work together to start discussing transportation plans or clear communication for parents that might encourage bus ridership, or at least provide clear direction on how people can access schools and hopefully make it safer and more time effective to get to schools. And I think we have one more, or is that it? Oh, that's it.
I just want to add one thing that I forgot to mention in the introduction is, yes, Hendrik works with the city of Tigard, but what's great is that the partnerships with all of TTSD. And so he's not shy to go over and work on the Tualatin side, the city of Tualatin schools, or even Durham, at Deer Creek. So there's this partnership is not just city of Tigard with the city of Tigard schools, it's all of TTSD, which is great. Questions?
I don't think I have a question. I think, well, actually, one of them you just answered, which was the Tualatin side of things. I think we're all shaking our heads like that was all our question. And really, this is such a great program. And while I was on the City of Tigard Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, these were conversations that we were having years ago, just sort of how do we continue to build a really collaborative relationship between the school district and the city. And, I think there are a lot of overlapping concerns. I know that we have a lot of conversations, and I'm sure Director Bowman will mention this too, around Hall Boulevard. And so continuing, like, there are bigger, really big conversations around safety that comes back to something as simple as, these safe routes to school. And so I think the partnership is wonderful. I know that at a lot of schools that buy-in for that walk and roll to school is huge. Director Weston also mentioned earlier the scooter program, that she's seen in action. And so, these are taking hold, and students love them and look forward to them. And so I think it's a wonderful partnership, and I'm really excited that we're continuing that work together to kind of continue to strengthen and build this program out.
Yeah, I also had that same question, but given that there's some city officials here as well, wanted to advocate for, if it's only one of you, that perhaps the city might want to invest in more FTE for this program on their end, so that we are hitting all of our schools, and it's not just putting all the burden on you, because I know that PE teachers would love nothing more than to take on more stuff, right? Probably not. They'll write letters to me now. But so what I'm saying is that while I really love this program, we should have. I don't see anything on here about the city may be providing more staff to staff the program. So I just want to throw it out there for the city officials in the room.
Or I'll piggyback on that. Maybe there are city officials from another city that might want to get involved, and so that it really is a Tigard-Tualatin endeavor.
Vice Chair Jaime, is one thing that came up when we were drafting the IGA, and there was a slide up there about second grade scooter education. I reached out to all the PE teachers and the WAM teachers elementary to find out what they thought about this program, and they were all 100% for it. And so they know that part of the language is in there, that the goal is for Hendrick to teach them how to do it, and they're all in because they see the value and they see the smiles on the kids' faces and the education that they get. So that's a good thing.
No, trust me. All teachers are going to be all in for this program, right? Especially if it creates safe routes for the students. But it's just not fair to put more stuff on them if the city could provide more money.
And I'll speak to that point. Two points. One, if this process moves that way, I would definitely still be a big support in that program. I wouldn't just pass it off and be over. I would still house our scooter fleet and provide free helmets and all that. And then just to provide some information, my position is quite heavily grant funded. And so we've looked into additional staff, but unfortunately the way it works, the city of Tigard probably wouldn't be able to get 2 grant positions funded. So there is that challenge there. And that said, there could be another city or even a school district position that could be, heavily funded by either Portland Metro or the Oregon Department of Transportation Safe Routes to School program. So there's different buckets that could fund other positions, but it probably wouldn't get funded through the city of Tigard again, just because of limitations with those.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to reiterate how wonderful this program was. My son came home talking about it, how he was going to have scooter safety, and I was kind of like, okay, like I wonder what that is. And he had it during PE and said how fun it was, and then he had the next day at PE, so it skipped a day in the middle. And he was so thrilled, came home with his little helmet, showed everyone the helmet, talked about how it had a sun visor, showed everyone how to put the visor on the helmet, how to adjust it, how to store the stuff to adjust it if he was to grow in size. And just so impressed, and became this little safety proponent at home too. And just thinking about if a child didn't have a helmet, how important that would be. And so I know here we are again with our funding shortage issues, but maybe we could reach out to an insurance company, because I know head injuries can be really expensive. And so maybe there's not an obvious way to fund this, but it's definitely a small investment for a big payoff to have kids' brains protected. Pretty important, and a lot of fun, really positive, happy, active experience. So thank you for your work and your partnership. Fantastic program, and I think we can all be trying to think creatively about how to expand the program.
Director Bowman, I don't want to miss you if you have any comments or questions.
I don't think I have anything to add other than big supporter of the program, and definitely will need to use some creative thinking to expand. I like some of the conversations that we've been having so far, but I think the partnership between the school district and the city is really, really important. So I appreciate that we're working together on this, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, Jill, did you have any? Okay. Thank you. All right, and with that, we will move to our action item for the night with Director Moore.
Good evening, Chairman and Directors of the Board. Bringing forward Resolution 2223-17 to the Board for consideration this evening. It's a request for property tax exemption for a low-income housing project within our district. And this one is the Hawthorne Villas located on Pfaffel Street in Tigard. And we tend to bring one of these every year or two, and each time I learn more about the program. And this one has actually been exempt for the last 27 years. And in a nutshell, we're being asked to formalize it by the board. The county has requested that the city is actually charged with coordinating with the various jurisdictions to make this happen, and apparently the county is asking for further validation by the district, even though this has been going on for 27 years. And of course, under the resolution, it cites the statute where this is provided for, and talked to the owner of the property several times. He's very anxious to get this done because his application was turned down for the first time and since he's owned the property, and due to this little bit of hiccup at the county and or city level, and he indicated that this will actually sunset in 3 more years. So apparently it's like a 30-year program maximum. So happy to answer any questions about this particular one.
So just to clarify, are you saying that this property tax exemption then would only run for 3 more years?
Yeah. It has a 30-year maximum is what he informed me.
Interesting. Okay. Huh.
So apparently the county won't, after year 3, the county will no longer approve it. So him or whoever the owner is at that time will be paying the property tax.
So does that mean then that this is a low-income housing project only for the next 3 years, and then after that it would be market rates?
Yeah, sounds like it.
And then at that point we could collect the full property tax on the property?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I like the idea of having more affordable housing in our school district. God knows, as you were talking about earlier, Director David, we need it. We're losing kids because their parents can't afford to live in our district. I'm a little chagrined that it's only for another 3 years. That is a little disappointing. However, at least we will enjoy the fruits of the property taxes on the property. So that is small compensation, I suppose. Do any of my fellow board members have any questions? Or okay, then I move to adopt Resolution 2223-17 as submitted to approve the use of an exemption from district assessed property taxes on the value of the Hawthorne Villas property located at 7705 Southwest Pfaffel Street in the city of Tigard, which qualifies for the property tax exemption program administered by the city of Tigard and Washington County as provided in the nonprofit corporation low income housing program authorized under ORS 307-540 through 307-548.
Second.
Woo. All right. Motion was made by Director Zerschmied and seconded by Vice Chair Jaimes. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. With that, we'll move to a choral vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Director Moore. All right, and now we are moving into our non-agenda item portion of public comment. And so before we get started, I'm just going to read sort of the protocol for how that works. And then I have my roster up here and we will go down the line. So this public comment is for non-agenda items, and here are the rules. The Tigard-Tualatin School Board meetings are public meetings, meaning that the business of the board is conducted in open meeting for the public to observe as required by law. However, regular public comment at board meetings is a policy choice of the school board, not a legal requirement. As the board values input from our students, parent, and district community members we serve, the board provides these opportunities for community members to provide input on board topics. And in this case, board topics that are non-agenda items. In addition to public comment, community members may submit written comments to the board secretary at each meeting or email comments directly to the school board. And we do have a written comment, and so those will be shared in the minutes, so those are available to read. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes and should be brief and concise. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations or programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning specific district personnel. We are also unable to hear praise or commendations about district personnel specifically, but invite you to submit your commendations to the superintendent. So no specific names, programs, etc. This doesn't matter because we were already in the end of the meeting. Before your comments begin, please share your zip code. And then, do you have the cards or a timer? Oh, all right. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and we have a timer up here, and then we'll be on all of the televisions there for you. And so when your 3 minutes have expired, we ask you to stop, and then there will be no discussion at that time, but we will be happy to listen to you for that full 3 minutes. And again, additional public comments are always welcome to be submitted to the school board via email, and that can be written or on the agenda for another board meeting. All right, with that, and then when you get up there, and I'll invite the first person here in a second, just make sure that microphone, there's a button that says push, and push that to green. And you might have to hold it a little bit close so that we can hear you. So with that, Evie and Holly, do you guys want to come up together or one at a time? Okay. Yes, you can have, but I didn't know if you wanted to sit together. But yes, you each have your 3 minutes. Okay. All right, Evie, if you want to go first, whenever you are ready, you can begin, and then the timer will start.
All right, my speech on my phone. So, こんにちは皆さん。私の名前はポリブガエビです。私も中学校3年生日本で、また高校1年生アメリカです。よろしくお願いします。Good evening, everyone. My name is Evie Polivka, and I would be a third year in Japanese middle school, but in America, I'm a first year high school student at Tigard High School. Please keep me in your best regards. All of what I just said, I've learned in my Japanese class this year. I know basic conversational Japanese because of this class, and it has further enriched my learning experience. That may sound cliche coming from a student, but I really find it true. School has been a thing I've had a love-hate relationship with, and Japanese has increased the love for it. Languages are my passion, one of my special interests per se. Taking away this class will essentially sap my motivation to go to school. It's my favorite class, especially since it aligns with one of my hobbies. I've learned so much in this class too, not just the language. I plan on being a foreign exchange student in Japan for my junior year, and without this class being a part of my curriculum, it will make my dream more difficult, and if I don't end up going to Japan, I won't have it to go back to in my junior and senior year. The wheel class is something the budgets are being prioritized to, and every freshman is required to take it. No student nor teacher likes the classes that I've talked to, and no one's feelings, as far as I'm aware of, would be hurt if it was gone. If we wanted to take a class, we'd take it. We don't learn anything new during 9 weeks of a short class every other day. In Japanese class, we learn about the history, language, culture, and modern-day aspects of Japan, not things that you can learn about in 9 weeks easily. Not only Japan either, we learn Asia's geography and other countries' involvement with Japan. I would like to point out that there are 5 Spanish teachers and 2 French teachers at our school. We have 1 Japanese teacher. French and Spanish are both European languages as well, Japanese being the only source of Asian history and language in our school. Asian representation is at a low in general, especially in the Tigard-Tualatin school district. Taking away Japanese means taking away Asian representation. I hope you take these arguments into mind as prioritizing the European languages rather than an extreme minority in our school is something many people, including me, do not find acceptable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Evie.
Oops, and it's actually Effie.
Oh, Effie, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Effie.
so
Go ahead, Holly.
did you say we need to say our zip code too? Okay, my name is Holly Campbell Polivka, and my zip code is 97224. So I want to talk about the Japanese program being cut from the high school, as well as a DEI TOSA position that I believe hasn't been included in the budget. And of course, as I think a lot of you know, I'm a librarian, so I want to talk about libraries. I really appreciate the way the district has a focus on equity, and I'm concerned that by taking away the Japanese program, like what Evie said, you know, there's one Japanese teacher compared to the 2 French teachers and the 5 Spanish teachers, that at very least the optics don't show that it is a priority for the district. I appreciate that it's very difficult decisions that all of the principals are having to make in terms of what staff has to be cut. And I also understand that it's a numbers game, and that Japanese, the enrollment was low. And if we're looking at having 26 and a half students per teacher, that logically it makes sense to cut the Japanese program. However, one thing that I do as a librarian is I'll go through and I will, I weed, which means getting rid of books that may not necessarily circulate so well anymore. But I use different criteria when I'm weeding, if it comes to books with diverse characters in them, or books that could be of interest of people from marginalized communities. And I think that the same could be done for looking at programs that are being cut. And in terms of that DEI TOSA too, I feel like it's really important to have I always confuse classified and what's the other one? Whatever, a teacher. I think it's really important to have a teacher who has a focus on equity. And then in terms of libraries, and I know that this has been going on for a while, that I would love to see a full-time librarian in every school. Studies do show that there is a positive correlation between having a full-time librarian in the school and literacy and math, and we want our numbers to go up, and by having a full-time librarian, that's going to help. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all. I appreciate all that the district is doing towards equity, and I appreciate our teachers and our principal, who's had to make some really difficult decisions.
Thank you so much. All right, and Alicia? And again, just make sure that light is green, and then the clock will start when you begin speaking.
The light's green? Yeah, it was green. Hi, sorry. Okay. Alicia Wary, 97224. Okay. My name's Alicia. I have 4 students that are going to be cycling through TTSD. One child I had before we moved here during COVID had previously graduated. I'm much with Holly and Evie. My daughter is also in that same program. And so I guess I'm just going to read what I can. If any of this is wrong, I'm sorry. I'm going off information I've learned. I am concerned about her IB diploma, and from my understanding, the children that are going to be getting cut from the Japanese program are going to be possibly offered to take another foreign language, but at a fast pace. And my daughter had stated, she goes, okay, so I have to work harder than I am now to get that, which other students are already taking the other languages. She goes, I've taken a full year of Japanese, and now I'm gonna have to work extra hard for a fast track program to get the IB diploma in French or Spanish, and she doesn't feel that it's right or fair. The concern for the equity with the school and providing diverse linguistic programs. Again, much of what they said is on point. You know, it is a struggle for kids finding different languages that they're interested in. And I believe that the Japanese culture, along with the language being taught, has really helped my daughter with school. My daughter, her mathematics and foreign language teachers have been given notice and that they will no longer be teaching at school. She learned this from other students, not the staff. She's afraid of how this will affect her future for college. They want the 4 years for foreign language for the IB diploma, and she'll have 1, 2 if this program is dropped. She does not want to restart with another language. You can't always get what you want, but she wants to not stop it. She wants to master this language. I want to emphasize the one teacher didn't say anything. The math teacher, she said that they knew something was wrong after a meeting. He came in with swollen red eyes, had a feeling it was something bad, didn't know it was because of the cuts and that the teachers were all getting noticed at that time. She's really considering math as a major for her college now. She has almost straight A's. She's been thriving this year. Her foreign language teacher is phenomenal. She's shown so much more interest in other cultures, and I'm trying to help implement what she's learning in other aspects of life. She's worried about when the program will end and was planning to take the 4 years. It really helps that she loves this program, and I wish the funding was there to keep these teachers on payroll. We've even donated to the teaching fund. The current freshmen, they didn't get much schooling during what can be arguably one of the roughest and most impressionable times during their educational career, beginning of adolescence. Many fell off the grid during COVID and didn't get their educational needs met. We moved here during this. These life changes and changes for the school can alter these kids' future. Junior high, they weren't, oh no, I'm sorry. May I finish? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off for 3 minutes, but you can send all your written comments.
I already did.
Okay, perfect. And those will all be reflected in the minutes, so we'll be able to read the rest, and as well, and they will be in public meeting notes as well.
So may I have just 10 seconds?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, and Kevin. And again, just quickly state your zip code before you start, and then the timer will begin when you start talking.
Push this. Whoa. All right. Ready to roll? Good to go. Okay. Youth and high school baseball, softball fields are less than what they could be in Tigard, and I'm being delicate as I can in that wording. My observation is that it's difficult for community members to partner with TTSD on improvement projects because on the one hand, we have in-building leadership that's focused on the heavy lifting that is the education process within their schools, but is required to advocate for improvements on their campuses. We have, on the other hand, we have district staff that's focused on the equally heavy lifting of running the operations within the district, but is looked to by in-building leadership for support. It can be a maddening cycle. Examples are projects that we're trying to work on at Tualatin Middle School, and observations of things that are needed at Tigard High School. I work diligently and sometimes aggressively on the Cook Park turf project. I did so because it was desperately needed in our community and because if I upset a city official, there wasn't much risk. I didn't think they were really going to turn off my water. If I take the same approach on projects at schools that my kids are going to attend, I'm risking their experience there, and I'm not wild and crazy about that. What I'm asking the school board and members, school board members and district staff to consider is how we can cumulatively improve the process to better leverage significant community support for school facility improvements, specifically the softball and baseball facilities at the high school and at the feeder middle schools. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, sir. You may have said it. I just didn't catch it. Could you state your name and your zip code again?
Sorry. Kevin Robinson, 97223. Yep.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the public comment and for everyone watching virtually. And I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.